Hello, Honors Algebra. Mr. Lawrence here with your flipped lesson for Wednesday, March 7th, and this should be super duper easy, guys. Today we need to learn about the zero product property. Okay, sorry about that. I had a small interruption. The zero product property. You've known this since you were learned to multiply. All it says that if you have two numbers, say x times y equals 0, either x equals 0 or y equals 0. Of course, both could equal 0 also. That's all it says, is that if you have multiplication, if you say 5 times x equals 0, well, you know 5's not 0, then x must equal 0. If you multiply two numbers together and your product is 0, then at least one of the numbers being multiplied had to be 0. Of course, I said two numbers, but it could work for this. 2 times 5 times 6 times 7 times 8 times 0. You know, only a fool would sit here and go 2 times 5 is 10, times 6 is 60. Well, let's see, 10, and then 60, and then 420, and then, oh my gosh, I don't know, 0, 2, carry the, oh, that's not a 2, that's a 6. So I'm making a mistake, carry the 1, 32, and 1 is 33. Oh my gosh, times 0, it equals 0. Don't you realize that right from the get-go? Since I'm multiplying everything by 0, the product's going to be 0? It would be silly to sit here and go 2 times 5 times 6 when it's all multiplication and one of the products is 0. It doesn't matter if the 0 is in the beginning, the middle, the end. I mean, if I had 10 times 9 times 0 times 5 times 4, that's going to equal 0. I'm not going to waste my time doing 10 times 9 and 5 times. No, it's all multiplication, so it's 0. Well, how does that affect what we've been doing lately? Well, let's take a real simple problem like this. Let's say we have x squared minus 25. Looks like a difference of squares problem, right? And it's going to equal 0. Our job is to solve for x. Now, in most of the problems we're going to do, we can't really use Saddam and the questions. On this one, we might be able to use those 5 questions back from solving linear equations. But this equation is not linear, right? We know it's not linear because its exponent, highest exponent is 2. This is a quadratic. This is a quadratic, all right? So to solve this, what we're going to do is we're going to factor the left-hand side. The equation's quadratic. All right, so I know it's the difference of squares. I know the square root there is x, the square root there is 5. This is going to be the quantity of x plus 5 and the quantity of x minus 5, and that equals 0. Now, based on all those things I just said, you should note that either this equals 0 or this equals 0. One of them has to be 0. So the solution for this is either x plus 5 equals 0 or x minus 5 equals 0. And now you just solve for x in both cases. Subtract 5 from both sides and you get x equals negative 5, or add 5 to both sides and you get x equals 5. So what do? We factored the quadratic part of the equation and took the factors and set them equal to 0 and then solved for x. It's really that simple. Let's say we have x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Well, this is a trinomial, right? It's not a perfect square trinomial. So I'll list my factors of 10, 1 and 10, 2 and 5. I'm going to add my factors of 10 to get positive 7, right? Well, heck, 2 plus 5 equals 7. There we go. So when I go to factor, I'm going to get an x plus 2 and an x plus 5. I know that needs to equal 0. And again, now I know that either this quantity or this quantity has to be 0. So I find out both possibilities. I say x plus 2 equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, I subtract 2 on this side, and I get x equals negative 2. Over here, I subtract 5, and I get x equals negative 5. All right, what does that mean? Well, watch what happens. I'm going to take this negative 2, and I'm going to substitute it in there for x. So I'm going to get negative 2 squared plus 7 times negative 2 plus 10. All right, this is going to be 4 plus negative 14 plus 10. 4 plus negative 14 is negative 10. Negative 10 plus 10 is 0. Bam! Same thing will happen for x equals negative 5. If you stick negative 5 in for x, negative 5 squared plus 7 times negative 5 plus 10. Well, this will be 25. This will be negative 35 plus 10. Now, if you're like Mr. Lawrence, I don't use the order of operations here. I notice that I have 10 positives here, and I have 25 more positives, so therefore I have 35. Oh, I have 35 positives, and here I have 35 negatives, and so consequently I have 0. It's that simple. Let's look at one that looks a little bit more difficult. All right, let's look at this one. 2x squared plus 6x plus minus 28. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out a GCF. And we're going to get a 2, and then x squared plus 3x minus 14. All right. And you know what? I don't think I picked one that was factorable. Hold on a second. This one's not factorable, so we would say there's no solution for x if it equals 0. All right, that was actually a mistake on my part, but it is a real situation that we might run into. There is no value of x that I can put in. Yeah, I'm only coming up with 1 and 14 and 2 and 7 as the factors, so that's not going to work. So let me change the problem to one that we can solve. Okay, there we go. This one should be factorable. I'm going to use the trinomial method. There's no GCF other than 1. What's the factors of 2? What's the factors of 28? And I believe that's it. I'm going to subtract, because that 28 is negative, to get negative 1. Well, look here, I have 8, and here I can get 7, and negative 8 plus 7 gets me negative 1. So I can factor it as x and 2x, right? And then the 2 got multiplied by the 4, so the 2 gets multiplied by the 4. The 8's negative, so the 4 is negative. The x gets multiplied by the 7, and it's positive. I need it equal to 0, so now I know that either this part or this part is 0. So I'll set them equal to 0 and then solve. X minus 4 equals 0. If I add 4 to each side, I'll get x equals 4. Or I get 2x plus 7 equals 0. I'll subtract 7 from each side. I'll get 2x equals negative 7. Divide by 2. Don't go to a calculator on this, guys. Don't be wimpy about it. X could equal negative 7 halves, or better yet, negative 3 and 1/2. Okay, look, if you know what half of 6 is, and you know what half of 8 is, half of 7 smack in the middle, right? 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2, 4. 7 divided by 2 must be smack in the middle of 3 and 4. 3 and 1/2. Don't make it difficult. It's too easy. Don't run to your calculator either. You're cheating yourself. All right. So my solution would be x equals 4 or x equals negative 3 and 1/2. If you put either of those values in for x into the original equation, you will get 0 for an answer. All right, that's the zero product property, and that's how we're going to use it. And we're actually going to be using it to solve word problems on probably on Friday. All right, Mr. Lawrence signing off. Quinn will thank me because I got it on under 10 minutes. Have a good night, everybody.